Hi, welcome to Chad's Silversmithing. It's time for a quick tip, and today, because of popular demand, I've been asked this question over the past 4 years a number of times. How do I price my jewelry? And so I thought I'd talk a little bit about some of the things I think about when I'm setting prices, and hopefully it'll give you a starting place if you're new to this. So let's get started. These design idea sketchbooks are available on my merch store, and they have different information on the backs, usually some useful conversion charts or some various other things, so check it out. Today I'm not drawing any pictures so much, but I made some notes about what we're going to talk about. If you're new to this, and this video is kind of directed at people who are new to this, sometimes people get into this because they just want to make stuff for themselves or for friends, for gifts and things. But if you really get hooked into it, at some point you're going to have to find some way to get rid of all this jewelry that's piling up around you. I know after a while I kept making things that my wife didn't necessarily like, but other people might. So eventually I had people asking me if I'd make them things, and that ended up being a good way to get into a business. However, there are some things to think about prior to that and some ways to calculate how much you should charge for your pieces. So I wanted to talk about a few things about that today. Before we start on the actual pricing formula that I kind of use in my head, there's a few things to consider. Okay, one thing to consider, and I was guilty of this a little bit, I started selling things before I really was as competent at this as I should have been. Some of the pieces I sold back then I would be kind of embarrassed about at this point. So make sure you're making good quality pieces that will hold together for many years and maintain their attractiveness throughout the course of their life. So you don't want to be selling stuff that's cheap or will fall apart or anything like that. So make sure you've mastered that aspect of it before you start selling things. I think that's important. Another thing is, if you're a beginner at this, oftentimes people are lacking in confidence about their work. Even though they've mastered the basics, they still think that their stuff doesn't qualify as being artistic or pretty enough to sell for a reasonably good price. And it's important to recognize that once you've kind of gotten the basics down and you're making pretty stuff, you need to not undervalue your projects, because if you're underpricing it because you're not confident in yourself, you're doing yourself a disservice. And I think you'll also find that you will sell less stuff if you have it really low priced, because people think there's something wrong with it. So that's something to think about. When I started increasing my prices to match kind of prices that were comparable to other similar artists, I did much better. The other thing is, it's easy to fall into the trap of comparing your work to mass-produced stuff that's sold online, and they sell those things relatively cheap because a lot of times they're made by machines or by people who are paid very poor wages, so they can make them and sell them at really low price points. And what you're doing is different than that. You're not mass producing generally. You're making unique individual artistic pieces from scratch, and you are an artist who makes things handmade. So you should be comparing your prices against other handmade artists if you want to use that as a gauge for how to price your things. So don't try to compete with the imported stuff that is made by a machine. You will never be able to match your prices to those and still make a living. Here are the things that I keep in mind when I'm pricing. There's a few things. One, you have to calculate in the cost of materials. When I started this in the 90s, silver was about $4.50 an ounce, and so it really was a negligible cost for the materials then, and I usually got pretty good deals on stones, so I didn't even calculate in the cost of materials too much. With the current volatility of the silver market, we've gone from, in the past year or two, around $25 an ounce up to, I think it hit over $100 an ounce for a little while, or close to 100. It's back down to 68 last I looked, 67 today I think. And so it's fluctuating pretty drastically, and that's a factor in how you price things too. So I do have to kind of calculate in the cost of materials anymore, because it's expensive to replace the materials. So cost of stones, if you want decent stones, you have to pay quite a bit of money for them. So that is going to be a factor in your calculation as well. One thing to remember is that even if I might have bought some silver 2 years ago and it was at $25 an ounce, for me to replace the materials that I use for projects I'm doing now using that silver, it's going to cost me $67 plus the fabrication costs that they tack on to that when you buy it. And so I can't charge what I would have charged 2 years ago if I made something from it, because I can't replace the materials for that cost anymore. The other thing is the volatility of the market. It could be $40 tomorrow, or it could be $100 tomorrow. So don't undercharge for your materials either, because you're going to have to replace the used up materials at some point. A couple of things about raw materials, especially silver and gold and other metals. Spot price is basically what the raw cost of silver would be if you just bought like ingots. When you're buying wire, sheet, different kinds of materials, solder, all of that kind of stuff, there's going to be a fabrication cost tacked onto it. And typically, well, it used to be around $5 or $6 or $7 per ounce. Last I looked, it seems to be usually about $10 or $11 per ounce now. So the cost of silver today is $67 an ounce, but if I was to buy some raw materials from a jewelry supply company, I'd be paying $77 or $78 per ounce. The second thing you need to consider when you're figuring out your price is the cost of your time. Especially when you're new, it takes a while to make things until you build up some speed, and even then, you should pay yourself a living wage. Now, I used to tell people about $20 an hour, but it's becoming increasingly hard for someone to live on $20 an hour comfortably. So I would pay yourself at least $30 an hour. If it takes you 4 hours to make a piece of jewelry, consider that your labor costs $30 an hour times 4 is $120 minimum. And then you add the materials on top of that, and that'll give you a rough price that should be your lowest price. A third thing you need to consider is the venue you're planning to sell at. Now, there's a number of different places people sell jewelry. I do a lot of art shows or street fairs, or I used to do more, but I only do 3 or 4 per year anymore. If I'm doing an art show, that's kind of my normal price for my jewelry. I consider the cost of materials, the cost of the time, and also what I think the market will bear at that particular show. So that's an additional factor. Art shows I do pretty well at generally. Some other places that you might be selling your jewelry are retail stores. If there's a locally owned jewelry store, sometimes they'll take consignments, and consignments vary from place to place. Retail stores, they could be anywhere from 50% of the price that it gets sold for goes to you, to 75%. Most times it's somewhere in the middle. I think a lot of the retail stores I've tried in the past have been 40 or 35% goes to them, and the rest goes to me. So it seems like a lot, and because of that, you have to consider how much of a cut you want to take out of your profits there. So definitely don't sell it at a price where it's cutting into any kind of profit for you. If you're just barely selling it over the cost that it took you to make it, it's not worth selling it in a store that's going to take that much off of it. So you should price it accordingly so that you don't feel ripped off when you consign it somewhere. Retail stores, you just have to look at what the prices they are charging for various things in there and base it upon that as far as your markup. If you're doing something more like an art gallery, art galleries generally have higher priced items, and most of the time you can ask a little bit higher price. I have several different galleries I'm in, and there's one where I'm a member of the gallery, and so I get a higher percentage. I think I get 65% of my sales. And they get 35%. But I also have to pay a yearly fee to be a part of that. So oftentimes if you're just placing stuff on consignment in an art gallery, it'll be a straight 50%, and there's no other requirements on you. So it's a trade-off that way. The location of the gallery can be a big factor too. one of my galleries is in a tourist town, and so the prices I put on they also take 50% on that one. So the prices I put on those ones are pretty high because a lot of times people visiting a tourist town want to take home a souvenir and they're willing to pay a little bit more for it. Oftentimes a gallery like that in a tourist town will do quite well. So consider that factor in pricing, in how you price it as well. There's one other special factor that I kind of consider when I'm pricing my jewelry, and that is you make certain pieces and sometimes you can tell that it's a really nice piece and that people will really love it. And because of that, and because it's unique and artistic, sometimes you can charge a little bit of a premium to it. And sometimes I do that just because I don't care if I sell it fast. I'd rather get the price I think I deserve for a really unique piece of art I've made. So, and I think that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. So if you make something you think is just outstanding, add a little premium on top of your materials and your time because you deserve it. Nobody else has made something just like that. Let me take a ring I made a while back and let's do a little kind of price calculation on it. So this is part of a 3 little simple band kind of thing. I did 3 with little pink tourmalines. Now the tourmaline doesn't weigh very much, so I'm not going to even worry about that. But let's weigh the silver in this one. We'll get close enough to calculate it. You could weigh it in advance if you wanted to before you made it, but it comes out to be 0.125 troy ounces. So silver, like I said, is at $67 an ounce right now. So you add about $10 on top of that for fabrication charges. So $77 an ounce times 0.124 comes out to be $9.55 in silver, roughly. So it doesn't seem like that much, but it is a pretty small ring. So the stone itself, I likely paid $10 for, and I'm gonna, you know, stones are going up pretty significantly, so I'm gonna double the price on that. So $20 plus, what did I say? About $10, $9.55. So that's $30. Now it took me a couple hours probably to make that. So $30 an hour. That's 30, 60. Plus the other 30 that we calculated, and that brings us up to $90. So, and I think in most venues that would be okay. If I was going to put it in a gallery, I'd add a little bit of a premium to it, maybe 125 or 145. Depends. So, and it depends on what I think the market will bear. So that's how I would have priced that one. So that's not the only way to calculate things. Everybody has their own price formula, and that's okay. But don't undersell yourself because it takes time to master these kinds of things, and you deserve to be paid for your time. So hopefully that's helpful to you. Let me know what you think. I'd love to hear your price formulas if you already have one. Tell me in the comments. I always love hearing people's ideas because, you know, I don't know everything, and it's nice to hear other people's stuff. Okay, well that was a little bit of information about how to price your jewelry if you're new to this. And I hope you'll find some useful tidbits from it. So if you did, make sure to hit the like button before you go. That really helps to get my channel promoted. I do appreciate that most profoundly. I'd also love it if you'd visit my main channel page. I have lots of content, 600 plus videos now, and I do 3 per week. So there's always a lot of new stuff up there. So check it out, watch a few videos. I'd absolutely love it if you subscribe to my channel. Not only does it give you notifications if you sign up for that, it just makes it easier to find my videos, so you don't have to just wait for them to show up in your feed. I also wanted to thank some groups of people. Thank you to my patrons. They're my core group of supporters. They provide me not only financial help, but also provide an environment over there where we can all learn from each other, and it's a really nice kind of artistic group over there, so I appreciate their support in more ways than one. The other group are my YouTube subscribers, and we just passed 27,500. I think we're approaching 27,600. That's amazing. Thank you for that. I love the comment section. I learn so much from people, and I get the nicest comments from people, and I do appreciate that. I'm always open to suggestions for videos. I like to hear how you do things. It's always a great way for me to learn new things as well, so thanks for that. Thank you also for the financial support, the buying me a coffees, the super thanks, buying my merch, buying my ebooks. All of that stuff makes my channel sustainable, and I could not do it without your help. Check out the video description down below. There's some important links. There's one to my Patreon if you want to find out more about that community and the various tiers of membership there. Maybe you'd like to become part of that community. There's a link to my merch store if you want to get yourself one of those design idea sketchbooks or some other merch. I find those super valuable and useful for keeping track of my projects, so get yourself one or two. Finally, there's a link to my newest ebook, which is a guide to 2025's YouTube tutorials that I did. There's roughly 170 to 180 tutorials I did last year, and there's a page for each one. And it includes a link to the video, but it also includes a picture of the original sketch that I drew for the project, a final outcome picture, a list of materials you need to make the project, stone information if there's a stone in it, a difficulty rating, and then some notes I took about it, some things that I might not have talked about in the video, or things that I thought about after the fact that I might have done differently, or what I learned from it, or did I like the outcome and why. So it's a great way to have a bunch of projects right at your fingertips, and a really nice way to support my channel. And there's even a package discount if you get all three, 2023, 2024, and 2025, because I've done it for 3 years now. So, all right, well, thanks for watching today. Take care. Happy silversmithing.